Zach Rosenblatt has done a 7-round mock draft for the New York Jets. Let's see how he did. What is going on, guys? Welcome back to Talking Jets with Tigo. My name is Tigo, and today we're going to have a conversation about this 7-round mock draft that Zach Rosenblatt did for The Athletic. Now, I have not seen any of these picks, so this will be 100% totally my real reactions. The only thing that I've seen is the first pick to make sure that it was just the Jets and all of that stuff. We're not going to read through the entire article or anything. We're just going to see if he made any trades, if he made any moves, what picks he made, how I feel about it, and then we'll go from there. So let's start with the first round pick at number 10. He has the New York Jets trading back with the Pittsburgh Steelers. In back-to-back drafts, he has the Pittsburgh Steelers coming up this time for another tackle. Last year, they came up in front of the New York Jets to get an offensive tackle in Broderick Jones. This time, they have them coming up to the Jets to secure their offensive tackle that he thinks that they still need. Now, the trade is the Steelers will send to the New York Jets their first-round pick, which is pick number 20, and a second-round pick in this year's draft, which is number 51, and a sixth-round pick, number 195, and a 2025 fourth-round pick to the New York Jets. And the New York Jets will send the number 10 overall pick and a sixth-round pick in this year's draft, number 185. So essentially, the New York Jets get a first, a second, and a fourth in next year's draft, and then drop 10 spots in the sixth round for the number 10 pick. So they drop back 10 spots, and that's what they get. It's an interesting trade, to say the least. Now, the reason I think it's interesting is because I don't see the Pittsburgh Steelers as a team that would come up for a tackle, just if I'm being honest. And a lot of what he says in the article, from what I was really quickly reading, says that the guys that would be available at 20, they might not be in love with because he thinks they need a starter. And I don't know if they're ready to move on from Moore Jr. I would. I think that the Pittsburgh Steelers should take a tackle, but I don't know if they think that. Well, what he has is the New York Jets taking Brian Thomas Jr., the wide receiver out of LSU. A couple of things with this. I love the pick. If you can trade back 10 spots and get Brian Thomas Jr., that's awesome. I love Brian Thomas Jr. I have him as a player that is totally worthy of the pick at 10. If that's what the route that you decide to do, I think adding a weapon is a massive, massive need. And if you can then drop 10 spots and add a weapon while accumulating a second-round pick, that is a big, big move, and it's a massive win. We don't really have any pass catchers outside of Garrett Wilson on this team, and we need to remedy that, and Brian Thomas Jr. does an excellent job of fixing that issue. Now, with our newly acquired second-round pick from the Pittsburgh Steelers, he has the New York Jets taking offensive tackle Kingsley Suamataia out of BYU. This is another very, very good and interesting pick. He is a mammoth of a human being, 6'5", 326 pounds. One of the better pass blockers in this class. Again, needs polish and needs to, solidify his role, but you can do a lot worse if you're looking for developmental tackles. And Kingsley is one of those guys that definitely has that starting left tackle upside. And then when you add the fact that we have Carter Warren, a guy who has, again, starting right tackle and left tackle upside, you possibly have secured your tackles of the future by making this pick. Now, I would have prioritized more an interior offensive lineman. I'm not necessarily worried about offensive tackle, more as in I am really worried about Elijah Vera Tucker and his injury sustaining, and we do not have anyone on the interior of the offensive line that I am super comfortable with. But again, it's not a bad pick. In round 3 with pick number 72, he has the New York Jets taking safety Jaden Hicks out of Washington State. Now, this is an interesting pick for a couple of reasons. One, this would be committing a significant asset to the safety position if the New York Jets went this way. Now, that's not saying that the Jets don't have a need at safety. They absolutely do. It's more, we have never really invested a significant asset at safety up to this point in time. But the New York Jets have met with Jaden Hicks, the safety out of Washington State. So there is a lot of connections there, and this pick isn't all the way out of left field or something along those lines that doesn't make sense at all. Now, in the 4th round, with our first 4th round pick, he has the New York Jets taking running back Audric Estime out of Notre Dame. Now, I don't love the idea of adding a running back in this draft. I do not see the value in running back in this class. Now, Audric Estime is a strong runner and, really run through the tackles, and he's a heavy runner and all of those things. And we definitely could bring in a guy who could take those hits off of Breece Hall, 3rd and 1, a guy who's just going to bully his way through the tackles and all of that stuff. 5'11", 221 pounds. I get all that, but this almost seems like, in my opinion, a mismanagement of assets. We still haven't taken an interior offensive lineman at this point, and, we still probably need to add an interior defensive lineman, if I'm being honest. There are other positions that I prioritize more than running back at this point, because I think you're going to be able to find a veteran running back that can come in and provide you that value for a really inexpensive price. And we've seen that, or hell, even go and getting an undrafted guy who can come in and play. We're not looking for a true running back 2, right? We're looking for a kind of another running back 3. And that's not because I think Israel Abanikanda is a running back 2 or anything like that. I do, but it's more like if we have Breece, he can be running backs 1 and 2. We just need 2 running back 3s to come in and lighten the load, and Izzy and an undrafted free agent, or Izzy and a veteran can do that job. So not a fan of that pick. Round 4 with our other pick, 134, he has quarterback Jordan Travis out of Florida State. And I'm going to be honest, I'm not a fan of this pick at all. And the main reason for that is there are a lot of question marks with Jordan Travis, and I'm not talking about his injury. I'm talking about his game translating to the NFL level. He doesn't have the biggest of hands, and his throwing motion is really weird, and he likes to kick out his leg for a throw, and he has to get his whole body in if he really wants to get the ball downfield, and I don't know how much of that is going to get better with time, even if that means sitting behind Aaron Rodgers and Tyrod Taylor, which is an excellent quarterback room to learn behind. But again, it just kind of feels like a mismanagement of assets by taking a quarterback in this position. We don't need a developmental quarterback in this draft, and there aren't a ton of guys in this draft that provide you a ton of value. Now, if you're talking about like Michael Penix or Bo Nix here in the 4th round, like, cool, I would take those guys, but we all know they're not making it this far. And after that, the likes of Michael Pratt, who is the guy that I am a fan of, Jordan Travis, Sam Hartman, and Spencer Rattler, none of them appeal to me as a value pick, especially in an all-in year that you're looking at with the New York Jets. So screw the future quarterback. We'll figure that out later. Focus on getting players that can impact now, and I feel like an interior offensive lineman and an interior defensive lineman at these spots would do that more. And we should probably start looking at corner in these rounds, because we need a defensive back. We need to find a DJ Reed and or Michael Carter replacement, because they're both going on the last years of their deal. So, and speak of the devil, in round 6 with pick 195, the new pick that we got from the Steeler, he has cornerback Daquan Hardy out of Penn State. Again, this is an interesting move, but at this point in time, Daquan Hardy seems more like a guy who's going to struggle to see the field on the defense at the next level at the NFL. Maybe he turns into something, but is going to be an impact special teamer. So I can see it here. He has Justin Hardy's name written in here, so maybe that's what he's looking at, is a guy like a Daquan Hardy being a Justin Hardy replacement. But I would have loved to see this pick happen sooner. With our first of our 2 7th-round draft picks, he has us taking center Matt Lee out of Miami. This is interesting, because now you're looking at a guy who is is statistically an interesting player. He's a tall player for when it comes to the center position, nowhere near as tall as Joe Tippmann. Joe Tippmann is 6'6". That's why I think his home is going to end up being at guard eventually. Matt Lee is an interesting project in the middle of the field as a center and does provide you some depth. So that's really good news there that you love to see in that whole range there, because we definitely need depth there. Again, I would have addressed it a little sooner in the process, but a pick is better than no pick, right? And then the last pick in the draft, Mr. Irrelevant, is linebacker Nathaniel Watson out of Mississippi State. And the idea here is that it's just about pushing the linebacker room. He believes that C.J. Mosley and Quincy Williams are the only players that the New York Jets have in the linebacker room, and that by going and getting a guy like Nathaniel Watson, you would be pushing last year's draft pick and Zaire Barnes, which is a good thing to do. Competition is always a good thing. And it would also, by having two people behind him chasing on his heels, push Jamian Sherwood, who we know the New York Jets staff is really, really high on as well. So overall, he made 8 picks, got a trade back in, and walked away with a wide receiver, an offensive tackle, a safety, a running back, a quarterback, a cornerback, a center, and a linebacker in this draft. Overall, if I have to give this draft a grade, I think I'm going to give it a C-. I love the first two picks, right, of Brian Thomas and Kingsley Suamataia. That feels right in going and getting a wide receiver that's going to be on the field week one and impacting the game week one, over the top speed and just a touchdown threat in the red zone and all of those things, right? And that's great. By doing that, further pushing Allen Lazard down the depth chart and off of the field as much as possible. That's what we want. Kingsley Suamataia, like I mentioned, developmental tackle who has left side, starting left tackle upside in him, which is great with a newly acquired second. Jaden Hicks comes in and immediately starts pushing Chuck Clark for a job, and him and Tony Adams and all of that stuff. That's great. Keep the elite defense. But then you get into the Audric Estime, Jordan Travis, Daquan Hardy, Matt Lee, Nathaniel Watson. I'm not a big fan of any of those picks, because I just would have liked to either address different positions at those spots or addressing them earlier to get better value of players. So let me know in the comment section below, what do you think of Zach Rosenblatt's 7-round mock draft? Let me know what you think about my analysis on it in the comment section below. And last but not least, go Jets.